I have the pleasure of being your moderator for today's discussion session. Before we get started, I just wanted to share a few reminders. We ask that we all keep our mics muted, as we have this discussion. We're definitely going to have some time for a Q&A. This doesn't apply for our panel speakers, but we kindly ask that we keep our mics muted just for the interest of ensuring that we can all hear. And then secondly, we're also recording this webinar, so we can distribute the recording at the end once we conclude. So for today, we wanted to have a quick webinar and just have a discussion about COVID-19. And, we recently hit kind of like the 1-year anniversary, if you will. And we just wanted to talk about some of the challenges, the accomplishments, and a look ahead of what that looks for us. For us here at San Manuel, one of the things that we always try to do is engage with the community and just trying to learn more about what's going on. We understand that a lot of our nonprofit friends, you guys work very directly with other funders, with other community partners, with your clients, and we really value your guys' feedback. So today we just kind of wanted to invite some of our good partners to us just to have a discussion about, what some of the things that have happened, and just to kind of provide an overview, right? It's been about 15 months since the global pandemic started. With that, we've had about 2 different CARES Act packages, PPE loans, vaccine rollouts, stimulus payments, and a number of other things. So today we have a few different panel speakers that will be joining us today. And if we can, Heidi, I would like for us to stop sharing the screen so we can give our panel speakers the opportunity to introduce themselves. Diana Fox, do you mind introducing yourself to our panel today?
Hello, everyone. Hi, I am Diana Fox. I'm the Executive Director at Reach Out, and Reach Out has been serving here in the Inland Empire now for 52 years, since 1969. And each year we serve over 30,000 people in the Inland Empire area and really work on strengthening communities. And that takes a lot of different forms, from health workforce development to direct service programs to racial equity and inclusion issues and many other things. So I'll leave it there, Alberto. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And then next up, Joshua Gonzales, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself, introducing yourself? Thank you.
Yes, good morning. Kwali Tonali, Noshini Mekayotsin. My name is Josh Gonzales. I am the Director of Native American Student Programs at the University of California, Riverside. Been there since I actually graduated from there. So I've been there and working in the office for 20 years. And yeah, I don't know if you want me to go into the organization, just the introduction, right?
I think that's good, Josh. We're going to have a chance to know more about you throughout the discussion. So thank you.
Right.
Carly, do you mind introducing yourself?
Not at all. My name is Carly Tex. I am Executive Director for the Advocates for Indigenous California Language Survival. We are an all Native American-led and run nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting the reclamation of California's Indigenous languages and cultures. Thank you.
Thank you, Carly. Paul?
Good morning, everyone. Paul Granillo. I'm the President and CEO of the Inland Empire Economic Partnership. And the partnership brings together the larger employers of Riverside and San Bernardino counties.
Thank you, Paul. It's nice to have you. And of course, as a part of this discussion, we also wanted to integrate someone from our team so they can speak on behalf of San Manuel. Faun, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Faun White. I'm the Tribe's Education Officer, Program Officer, and I work in partnership with local nonprofit groups, K through 12 schools, community colleges, and four-year universities, and nonprofit organizations. So thank you for having me on the panel today.
Thank you. So a little bit about today, we just kind of wanted to have a discussion on, what has happened, right? We have a few different questions that we kind of asked our guests, that we want to know a little bit more about what they're doing and their organizations. And, if it's okay, Paul, can you start us by telling us, what have you guys been working on at IAP? What are some of the challenges that you guys have had in the past 15 months, and what are some of the major accomplishments just to kind of get us going?
So thanks for the opportunity, Alberto. So my organization brings together, as I said, the larger employers of the region. The largest private employer in the Inland Empire is Amazon. My members include UPS, Coca-Cola, and Loma Linda Health, San Antonio Hospital. So it's a mix of all the different sectors of the economy. So early in the pandemic, our executive board made a decision that we were going to go all in trying to help the region recover as fast as possible for the pandemic. So traditionally in economic downturns, the Inland Empire has come out of that downturn at the end of the pendulum swing. And we really didn't want that to be the case. So we used our members and we listened to them. We listened to them and we tried to find out which parts of the economy were hurting the worst. And obviously that was hospitality, that was the restaurants. And then to help policymakers understand what was going on in the economy and to focus resources where they needed to be. And so we used our members as the backbone for a regional task force focused on economic recovery, workforce recovery, and research, and really trying to understand the factors that were affecting our economy. And so we're really proud of that. We're also proud that we had a recovery fund that we used to help small businesses that were hurting. And we were absolutely happy to partner with San Manuel and San Manuel's generous $1 million gift that in turn was re-gifted to some really hurting small businesses. And then finally, I think trying to help the state understand and our federal partners understand the importance of this region. And so we've been very focused on having conversations with our elected leaders at the federal and state levels to make sure that when resources start to flow, that the Inland Empire gets its fair share. So a little bit about what we've been doing the last year.
Thank you, Paul. And I think for us, I know Paul mentioned a little bit about the Small Business Relief Fund. And I think, for us here at San Manuel, that was an opportunity that we saw the public-private partnership to come together to support some of our small businesses. I think Paul mentioned a little bit about the hospitality industry. San Manuel Casino, is hospitality, gaming, and so on. So we're not immune, but, we understand the importance of, like you said, a fast recovery, right? To make sure that we're back on our feet as soon as we can. And that's very important. And I would like to take it over to Josh. Josh, I know you work with a lot of the Native American student programming at UCR. Can you tell us how has this impacted some of your students or some of the enrollments? What's going on? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think when everything kind of hit and we were starting to work remotely, I think for our students it was really, it hit hard for them. A lot of those, especially because we're entering into the spring quarter, it was their last, they've been on campus and they're excited for graduation, right, in June. So, it was just really kind of hit them hard. And so really it was just, kind of making sure we were supporting our students, continuing to actively be involved. We'd have weekly meetings, we'd host office hours, try to make it as much as possible because we do have an office location, a space on campus. And so, we're usually the place to go, the home away from home for a lot of our students. And so it was different, right? So trying to create a virtual space online for our students to feel comfortable, to get, help, support, whatever it might be. And then, just that fluctuation or that transfer of like going from, on campus to all online for our students was a little bit difficult at first. I think everybody just needed to adjust. And throughout the summer, even our summer program, we were like, for us, our office, it got hit hard because a lot of our programs that we have, like our powwow is pretty huge, considering we're not as big as San Manuel, but it just was, the springtime is a busy
Yeah.
time for us. We have our conferences, we have our powwow, we have graduation, and then we have our summer program. And that's one of the items that we're greatly provided funds for through Manuel grant.
Yeah.
And so, it was kind of like, what do we do? We can't host this in person. How do we support our students and continue to, provide support for those that are coming in or that are wanting to go on to college, right?
Yeah.
And so, it took us a little bit to kind of figure out, but we ended up still hosting a virtual, we call it the Gathering of the Tribes virtual summer sessions. And, kind of, again, breaking it down so we're not there all online. Of course, Zoom fatigue was kind of starting to come around a little bit, especially for
Yeah.
those that were not used to being on the computer a lot. And so, most of their day was being on computer. So I think we were able to still hold, a successful Gathering of the Tribes program. And again, just kind of adjusting, making those adjustments, those necessary adjustments for our students, for our prospective students. We had a lot of students that were incoming in the fall and they're kind of hesitant, as well. You kind of want to learn a little bit more about that. And so, some students, it's a mixed bag, really, to be honest. Some students were very successful and able to adjust and adapt, and some students, it was just like it hit them hard. A lot of times students would go, obviously might have gone back home, so now they're living with their family. They're used to being independent. Maybe they have little siblings, little ones, and they're now having to, take care of the house, take care of the kids, help out a little bit. So it was just a big transition, and it really just depended on the situation for the student. So we really just tried to, be their support, sometimes just a venting session for them, and really just trying to, see what we can provide. A lot of the times too was food. Food's a big thing, right? And so, they usually come by the office and get food, snacks, whatnot, print, use the computer. So we kind of really had to figure out what we can do to provide, support. And so there's a lot of different programs and things that we ended up getting off the ground through UCR, through UC Riverside, and then getting our students connected to those resources,
And Josh, if I may, just for everyone's reference, whenever we work with a lot of Native American students, right, they come from different reservations here in California, out of state. And these are a group of folks, right, that it's very hard for them to, number one, there's a lot of barriers, right, to come into a four-year university, right, or to transfer for community college. And now that we have them, right, enrolled in Josh's program at UCR, and now the COVID pandemic hits, that just creates additional challenges, right, for a lot of your students.
Oh yeah, definitely. It definitely, was challenging. I think, again, especially for those that were looking to apply, or some of them, it's been pretty. We kind of I wouldn't say we dropped, but usually as far as students being involved and all that, or as far as even students wanting to go on to college, it's just kind of. It wasn't, it was just kind of a steady. It's kind of been steady. Some folks, like I said, have been able to adjust and are wanting to continue on. And some folks were kind of a little bit more hesitant, obviously coming in the fall, once we were in the fall in 2020. Some students, were hesitant of do I live on campus? Do I not? Do I, what I mean? So all those little things that maybe sometimes we don't think about, but for students, it was like, what do I do now? So again, just throughout the year, made those adjustments, and we continue to have programs and events. Again, inviting folks to get involved, inviting folks, bringing out guest speakers. Just really just trying to involve our students and get them, active still.
Thank you, Josh. And Diana, talk to us about Reach Out West. What are some of the things going on at Reach Out? And what have you guys kind of done to kind of mold around the situation that presents today, or some of the challenges that presented to your organization, to the folks that you serve?
Thank you, Alberto. I think there wasn't one part of our organization, as I'm sure the rest of you experienced, that wasn't touched by pandemic and different ways of doing things. And then in the middle of that, also all of the racial justice issues that came along, right about a year ago at this time. And so there was this dual mandate to us, I think, that we felt very heavily to make sure that not only were we continuing to serve all of the people that we served pre-pandemic, just in a different way. We did a lot of drive-throughs, we moved all our classes online. We did all the normal things that I think most people did during that time. But then also really felt for JEDI work, the justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion work, to really within our own team and then as well as outside, to be able to really work on racial justice issues in many forms. And Alberto knows pretty well about we have a fellowship program that we do at Reach Out that really works on this issue. And we're working with 23 organizations right now just on this, with 58 fellows that are working on their racial equity, of really looking at their organizations, both at the individual level, at the organizational level, and then also looking outside of how their organization impacts racial equity issues outside of. So that is just one small thing. It's not small to us, it's huge to us, but we looked and we said, what can we do? What can Reach Out do? We already have it's called the Center for Civic Policy and Leadership, that normally is focused on health policy issues. And we feel like racial justice is a health policy issue, because we know the impacts on health when there isn't equity in healthcare, which there is not equity in healthcare. And so on many different things. So that was one thing. And I think, Heidi, if we can show the slide, one of the things that I had read this article a few years ago that really hit me hard. And the picture of this slide, and we're not doing PowerPoints, but I asked if I could show this one slide because it stuck with me. And when the pandemic hit, and when so many people were kind of like, oh, we'll just step back, we need to, just catch our breath, maybe ramp things down a little and just weather this out. This article, and this was a chart in this article, really stuck with me over time. It's like embedded in my head. And what it shows in the last economic downturn that, for those of us that lived through this very painful time, as you all know, all of you on the screen lived through this in various capacities. And a lot of companies didn't make it through this, and a lot of people lost their homes and different things. But what it shows is that organizations that continue to invest in innovation, even during an economic downturn, when the crisis was over, that they were in a much better spot than people who kind of just said, well, let's just write it out. And so I went to my leadership team and, talked this through with them. And, because it's hard right now to keep that mindset, because there's so many things coming at us at once. And so, so this is what we are trying. Thank you, Heidi. If we can put that down now, I don't want to keep it up there, but it's, I think being able to really think about innovation through this time, with so many things that we're doing in our health workforce work. We started whole new apprenticeship programs, especially for community health workers, because we know that a really critical part of recovery from the pandemic is going to be with community health workers, promotores, health navigators, all the people who are going to help people navigate all the different systems that are, if they need rent relief, if they need, access to healthcare, all those things that community health workers can help with that. So, sorry, if there's something you want me to dial in on, I can, but that's
I think one of the things that we've also seen in working with, hundreds of in the Inland Empire and with other tribal communities is that innovation has really kind of, been the determinant of the organizations that continue to stay strong, right? And the ones that have been able to evolve, use Zoom a little bit more and engage with their funders and so on. So we definitely have seen that change, Diana. So thank you for sharing that great graphic. And I kind of want to switch gears a little bit because we have Carly here from Fresno, and she oversees the advocates. And one of the things that here at San Manuel we always try to focus on is the language, arts, and culture, which is something that, when we talk about COVID-19 and recovery, a lot of the things has been, all right, education, basic needs, getting income to folks so they can continue to, pay their rent and so on. But, when we talk about language and culture and arts and some of those things, those are kind of put, towards the back at times, right? And I think here in the Inland Empire, we've seen that, right? We don't really have too many arts organizations and so on. So Carly, do you mind kind of sharing, how has this impacted, your programming efforts and some of those things?
Sure, thank you for the question. Happy to talk about the advocates' work. For us, early on in the pandemic, we recognized that our greatest source of language and cultural information is in our elders, who are the most vulnerable. So early on, we decided to put all of our events for the rest of the year on hold or move to an online platform. I just want to take a quick step back to put into context what we do. For anyone who's unfamiliar with us, we are a Native American-led organization that focuses on reclamation of Indigenous languages. And we started in 1992 in response to the loss of languages and cultures in California. California was once home to 80 to 90 Indigenous languages and several different language families. And we recognized that language and culture is at the heart of community healing, and organized this nonprofit to address that in a way that is sustainable. So our core program is Master Apprentice, which is pairing an elder fluent speaker, usually an elder, but they're getting younger now, with an apprentice, and they work together in close proximity. And so that's how we help communities that have speakers. We also have communities in California where they don't have speakers. They might have people who remember the language, and they also have documentation, whether it's video, audio recordings, or on paper. So we have an institute that helps those communities to revitalize their language through that documentation. Both of those require in-person working with each other. The master and apprentice, sometimes they live together or they visit each other in their households. For the Institute, we take everybody to UC Berkeley, where they have a chance to work in the archives and to gather that information and then use it to revitalize their language. Early on, we recognized that we wouldn't be able to have these in-person meetings, and our teams wouldn't be able to work together either. We support 14 Master Apprentice teams right now. So we shifted to an online platform, and we just had to totally adapt. And so we adapted our Breath of Life Institute, which was scheduled for that year, and it's a San Manuel funded project. So we adapted that to an online platform and held a virtual Breath of Life Institute. And so we brought in about 50 people, and we continued the same model where they were still able to work on their documentation. We still worked with UC Berkeley, which also went totally online for the rest of the year. So we were still able to provide that service to them, just in a modified way. We also, and so that was different for us because we're accustomed to going up there for a week-long institute. For our Master Apprentice, we sustain about 14 teams, and they are accustomed to working with each other in their households, but with the pandemic, they were unable to meet with each other. So we offered Zoom training. We started to hold bi-weekly sessions with the teams so we could check in with them and provide a space for them to work on their language together. And we also just felt like it would be important to create a space where the language could be shared and we could connect with each other statewide. So we started to hold these seasonal spoken word events. And so it's modeled after an open mic night, and folks come into the Zoom and we improvise, and they share poetry, they share stories, songs in
That's
their
awesome.
languages. Yeah, so we hoped it would be a respite from everything
Yeah.
going on, because it was so needed based off of the feedback, just a place where the language could live, and we could see each other. So it's really been an exercise in adapting to the pandemic,
Yeah.
and adopting different approaches, different to what we normally do.
And Carly, as a follow-up, how have some of the, because I know a big thing is, pairing up with the tribal elder, right? And, how have the tribal elders, mold around, the new situation or going through Zoom? Because I know, from my understanding, some of the languages, you're not, it has to be in person. You can't write the language. There's no dictionary, right? There's some of those cultural aspects, right, that we're not really able, that are not Zoom friendly, right? So can you kind of talk about, some of those challenges, and, what are the elders saying? Do they like this?
Well, it's a mix. We have some teams that have not engaged with us through our virtual master apprentice meetings. We have some that did not want to or were unable to work over Zoom, so they continued their sessions over the phone with their apprentices. And then we had some who just, at first they have that hesitancy because it's so different, but they actually adapted very easily once we got them started. Once, if somebody's in the household who can help them set up their computer and a webcam, and they can join us, and then they're thrilled to see everyone. So it's a mix. It's a mix, but we're grateful for the ones that are able to join. And we also recognize, because of the sensitivity of some language, when it comes to songs and sharing of some stories, for our spoken word events, we don't record those, because we just want it to be an experience for everyone, and to have a space where they can open up and share something that might be of a sensitive nature.
Yeah. Thank you, Carly. Thank you. And Faun at San Manuel. I know that, here at San Manuel, we've had some, a lot of changes with the hospitality industry kind of being impacted, and try to continue to be a tribal sovereign nation, right? And execute on our sovereignty, and continue to operate our charitable giving program. Can you kind of walk us through, what has San Manuel done to continue to support some of the different projects, right? And some of them in which some of our kind partners are here today, like what's going on? Can you kind of walk us through, some of the different things that, that San Manuel has done in this time?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. So like you mentioned, I know, the tribe recently made a $1 million contribution in support of local businesses. That was to help offset some of the payroll or miscellaneous expenses that were impacted by COVID-19. So that was one of the major highlights that we wanted to share with you this morning. And then also, the tribe, like they overall have experienced, some impact to their businesses. I know last year around, like between March and June, the tribe, they actually decided, they made the very hard decision, to shut down all of their business operations. But by June, they were able to reopen, and now, moving to trying to fully operate at 100% capacity now. But during those times, when the pandemic hit, the tribe worked with Loma Linda University to create a new COVID-19 health screening curriculum that is specifically designed to protect the community, guests, and its employees during the pandemic. And then also San Manuel, the tribe, they donated 4,000 surgical masks, to local area hospitals, including Riverside, San Bernardino Indian Health Clinic, Loma Linda's University Health Center, Loma Linda's Children's Hospital, and Dignity Health at St. Bernardine's Medical Center. Other examples, we had the San Manuel team members and friends and their families, and also residents. They They came together to collect more than 3,000 cloth face coverings that were donated to local nonprofits that were in need at the time. And then the tribe also sponsored local blood drives, supporting the American Red Cross and Livestream to help address the critical blood shortage in the region. Other examples, what San Manuel was able to do, San Manuel Casino's culinary team, we provided 8,000 meals to Highland Senior Center, Mary's Mercy Shelter, and frontline workers at Loma Linda University Hospital and Sachs Healthcare Center. The tribe also donated more than 80 pounds of food and supplies that were distributed to thousands of families in need by the local Feeding America chapter in Riverside. And then also last year, as an example, some of the things that the tribe did to ease the effects of COVID-19, we partnered with the San Bernardino City Unified School District to coordinate a school supply drive. Through these efforts, we were able to donate more than 1,000 backpacks that were filled with supplies to the Access to Learning for All students, also known as the ATLAS program. And then last but not least, in strategic philanthropy, we actually work with nonprofits to consider reallocating some of their funding due to the impacts of COVID-19 that they were experiencing, through their programming. So like Josh Gonzales, he's one of our major education partners at UCR. So the tribe, we support the Native American student programs there at UCR. I know that they experienced some issues like the gathering of the tribes, having to switch everything, some of the programming online, but definitely trying to work with our local partners to, make things easier on their end.
Yeah, and I know, and to add to that, I know some of the things it looks like, Faun, like the tribe has kind of evolved its philanthropy program beyond issuing financial awards, right? I think you mentioned issuing blood drives, right? That's a big need right now. A lot of folks, I know the American Red Cross, or Livestream, right? A lot of their donors are actually high school students, right? When they have these community blood drives. And now with the pandemic, students are no longer attending schools in person, right? This means that their opportunity to cast, more donors is no longer there, right? So I think that's pretty cool that the tribe has evolved from donating food to hosting community blood drives and just, going beyond its traditional philanthropy, right, of issuing, financial awards. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Faun. And then I also wanted to talk, and this question is kind of geared for all of our panel speakers, and just more about employees. Right. When we talk about here at San Manuel, we have about 4,600 employees across the tribal government and also at the enterprise side. And we're tailored to add an additional 4,000 employees in the next, 24 months. So that's significant growth. But what shifts have we seen with employees, right? A lot of, organizations are like, hey, it's safe to come back to work, as long as we're all socially distanced and folks are vaccinated. But, what shifts have you guys seen with your employees, or how have you guys navigated that? Because all the good work that you guys all deliver, it's not, we can't all do it by ourselves, right? We need teams, we need folks that are engaged in their work. So how has that impacted, your workforce at, your representative organization? And I don't know, Paul, Diana, or Josh, or Carly, or Faun, does anyone want to take that one on?
That's not an easy one, Alberto, right? So, IEP has a leadership academy where we take deep dives into understanding what makes up the Inland Empire, right? So traditionally that meant a lot of experiential trips. So you can't understand logistics in the Inland Empire unless you understand the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. And we weren't able to take those trips, so we had to improvise. And as Diana says, I think the experience of the COVID for the nonprofit leadership is that we had to improvise. And I think moving forward, there's going to be expectations of employees that are going to want to continue to have opportunities to work at home. And how are we going to deal with that? We've seen our meetings, our committees be as well attended as they've ever been because of the virtual option. And so I think nonprofit leaders are also going to have to think about I think there's always going to be a demand for a zoom in option. And so that's going to change. That's going to change how we do our business. And it's not just going to be enough to have one screen in the conference room, right? You're going to have 2 or 3. And then the other piece is, so much of nonprofit work is face to face, right? And relationship. And so I think we're going to have to be more intentional about that. But this pandemic has really changed how our economy works, how we learn, and we don't know. We're still on the top of the wave, right? We don't know what it's going to do in the years to come. But I can tell you from my members that the innovation that has come in this year was expected to take 10 years. And so we just need to keep up with it. And it's going to be interesting. It's not going to be boring.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah. Any other thoughts, on employees and how we engage? Diana, Josh, or Carly?
Yeah, I want to just say ditto to everything that Paul said. And I think during this time, because Paul covered, I think, some of the big pieces, I'll go a little more granular on just what you do, how, it's a little late to start talking about all the things that we did. Reach out from the very beginning when we sent folks home. We put into place this very structured communication system. When I sent everybody home originally, I had them doing check-ins every day with their teams. I finally relented and let them go down to 3 times a week, but we have stayed at 3 times a week throughout till, up to today. When it came, and then during that whole time, we also have been doing surveys with the entire staff anonymously, so they can tell us how they're doing, how they were adapting to being at home, back when it was, as you all know, one day we were here and the next day we were home, and it was like, grab your laptop, grab what you need and go home. And, and people, and I told everybody, reach out. We do a lot of meetings. We always have food. And I was like, take all the food home. No, Diana, we're not going to be gone that long. Do you really think we need to get rid of all the food? I was like, yeah, I really do. And so, but they were like, no, okay, well, we'll do it because Diana's telling us to, but we don't think so. But, here we are several months later. But I think all those surveys and what we made sure to do, and I made a commitment to the staff of total transparency, that when I knew something, they would know it. And unless it was something that was confidential, that I would maintain, absolute openness with them about what was happening with the pandemic, what Reach Out's responses were to those things. And I think that has gone such a long way of keeping the team cohesive and being able to make sure that if people were like, I'm really struggling because I'm managing all these things at home and I've got all this, really addressing all those issues very early on with them and continuing to do so, because the very first survey we put out, we asked, how's it going? And what do you think about a hybrid work schedule? And they have said since the beginning, we want to stay hybrid. And so that's what we're doing, and taking that into account of really looking for, I don't like to call it work-life balance because I've never been able to attain it, but work-life synergy, I think, of really being able to, let people have that time with their families that we've all enjoyed so much, but still have a good work environment. So, those were some of the things, and, just really caretaking the team and making sure that you're addressing the issues as soon as they come up. So
yeah, I know that one of the things, and Faun, I know you had your hand raised, so we'll go over to you right now. But 4,600 employees, right? You buy all this office space, and now working from home is big, right? Like Paul mentioned, right? What do we do with that office space, right? And a lot of and businesses is not at the same level, at least not yet, right? We're slowly kind of wrapping up. The casino for us is at 30% capacity. We're scheduled, until June, until we open up at our full, at our full force, right? And our full capacity, right? But what do we do with that office space, right? Right now I'm in our offices in San Bernardino, and there's probably like 10 people here, and it's set up for about 300 or 400 employees, right? So, and if you're paying a debt payment on that payment, or you're paying rent, right? Well, how do you quantify, that we really do need this office space? All we need to do is give everyone, a stipend for Wi-Fi, a cell phone and a laptop, and we're able to do, right? So I think that's a question that a lot of folks are having, right? So Faun, I will go over to you, and Carly and Josh, feel free to weigh in. Faun?
Yeah, sure. Really quick, just to expand on what you were saying. So I know last year the tribe made the decision, to cease business operations just for like 3 months in 2020. But a lot of the tribal government employees, like we all shifted and we had to, work from home, and still some are working from home. But for like our casino and hotel employees, the tribe, they actually implemented new safety guidelines at their businesses, including the casino and hotels and more. So if you visit the casino or a tribal-owned business, you'll notice safety measures have been implemented at these establishments. And then we also have health screenings upon entry with all guests wearing masks, temperature checks. We have 6 feet distance markers placed at the casino and the businesses. Also hand sanitizer stations and more to make our customers and team members work in a more safer environment. And then also the tribe implemented safety guidelines, these same safety measures at tribal business offices. So when we are able to go back into the office, we'll know that those measures have been in place so that we are, working in a healthy and a vibrant work environment.
Hey, Faun, did this create any additional jobs, like new jobs for the tribe?
Yes, actually, you'll notice if you go down to the casino, we now have health screeners. So if once you park your car and you walk up to the casino entrance, you'll notice like we have these special greeters. And then we have the individuals that will say, hi, come this way so that we can do like a temperature check. But we have implemented and hired more people, so they can do the health screening at the casino.
Awesome. And Carly and Josh, I don't know if you have any thoughts, before we transition out of the employees discussion.
Yeah,
I do.
definitely. Oh, go ahead, Carly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just real quick, I just wanted to chime in from a different perspective, because we have no office. We work from home anyway. We work remotely, so there wasn't really that much of a change for me when the pandemic hit. However, since our services changed and we were trying to make more of an effort to engage and support our community, we did a lot of mail outs. So we created and mailed out family language kits with games, puppets, ideas for family engagement. We created a small giving program to families for technical needs, because we recognize that a lot of our families will be working online and living in rural and remote areas. They would have shady internet service. So we were trying to help them out with that. We mailed out masks to our families and participants and our board to give to their respective communities, because we wanted to set an example to stay safe and healthy.
Yeah.
With all of that, I needed help. So fortunately, through the course of the year, we had acquired some funding to hire some part-time staff. So I was actually able to create a new job for someone. And
That's awesome.
it's helped immensely in enhancing our capacity to provide our services. It's also added that extra responsibility of having additional staff, which we've never had before. But that is actually something that I intend on continuing post-pandemic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Josh?
Yeah, I'll just mention, real quickly that, yeah, definitely we're seeing, that transition of going back to the office. We have been already putting together plans, what it's going to look like as we continue to, get, back to campus. But yeah, definitely kind of a little mixture of everything that's everyone's been saying. I had previous to the pandemic, I was starting to look into more of like doing stuff online. So it was like once it hit, it was like, oh wow, it's like here. But the same thing that was mentioned, like the quality and everything wasn't there yet. But now that because of this, it kind of pushed things to be better quality, even with like Zoom and stuff, people, they've developed these platforms a lot better, right? There's a lot of more safety things, so yeah, it's been crazy, and I foresee continuing to provide some type of online presence. I think, again, for our office, again, we're home away from home for a lot of our students, so we kind of have to be there for our students once we do go back. And so, yeah, just kind of learning to see or seeing what we can do to be flexible with our staff, but also, what can we do and make sure that our presence is there. And so throughout the pandemic at UCR, we've had folks, our colleagues that have been on campus throughout this whole time, especially for those that were in the residence halls. So there's a lot of residents staff there, but slowly things are, kind of like yourself. Some folks are going back to campus, or working from the campus once a week, twice a week, 3 times. I forget. It depends. Really depends on the department. But yeah, things are slowly kind of moving towards that way, and yeah, we'll see. Looking forward to really kind of being able to host our events again in person. The great thing though is we've been able to expand, right? For some of our events, we've had people from like Chicago, New York, from up north, Sacramento, all the different places. So that's kind of been the other flip side of that, right? Really being able to expand a little bit more, and folks being able to attend some of our programs and get to learn more about what we do at UC Riverside. So
well, what is it? Sometimes crisis creates opportunity, right? So and innovation is, those that are open to innovation are the ones that are going to capitalize or benefit from that opportunity. And I know we have about 10 minutes left, and it's been a very engageful discussion, but I just kind of would like to go one last time around for our panel speakers, and just any concluding remarks or anything that we want to share with our different folks. Just any concluding remarks that we might want to share with our participants today. And I would like to start off with Paul, if that's okay.
Sure, Alberto. So to the last discussion, for nonprofit leaders, you need to know that smaller office space is going to be the hardest to get, right? So as you're thinking about downsizing, know that everybody's downsizing. And so that smaller office space, you better strike while the iron is hot, and it's hot right now. So I think concluding remarks, it's been a heck of a year. We can't forget the people that died. We can't forget the people that got sick and are going to continue to be sick, and just a whole lot of pain, right? The racial equity issues that came up this year need to continue to be at the forefront of being dealt with. And I say that as a man of color, right, who understands that the economy is about to take off like a rocket, and it's going to be fueled by the federal stimulus, by the infrastructure, by the amount of reserve, the amount of California's windfall, and for nonprofits that offers an opportunity. But the problem is when there's a lot of money, we all go and start fighting for it, okay? And that can take us away from the mission. And through COVID, we've all been focused on doing the right thing for the right reason. And I just don't want to lose that. And especially on the racial equity issues, right? If everybody's doing well and we don't have to think about it as much anymore, that'll be a shame. And so I think we have lived through something that I hope we never have to live through again. I think it's made us better. It's made us faster. It's made us focus on people that are hurting. And we can't forget that. That's at the heart of the nonprofit mission. So opportunity, but let's not go back to the way it was. Let's make it better.
Thank you, Paul. That was pretty powerful. Thank you. Diana, any concluding remarks?
Yeah, I think Paul and I must have been thinking along the same lines. I had written down a couple of things of I think one of the biggest things right now is continuing to counter false narratives that are really damaging to our community cohesiveness right now, that silence is complicity. And we all need to step up in different ways than we have in the past. And there isn't probably one of us that is exempt from having to really continue to look for new ways to make sure that we're not staying silent when we need to be an ally to people. And, you know, and I think one of the biggest challenges right now, there's many, but around vaccine equity, and vaccine hesitancy, which, you know, obviously there's a lot of false narratives going on around right now, that to be able to get to the point where we're actually going to be safe from this disease, we are not there yet. And there's a lot of people out there that think we are there, and we're not. And so we all need to continue rowing in that direction. Use your social media, use whatever platforms you have to continue to work on that. And you know, we're working very closely with both county public health departments on vaccine equity work, and particularly in Riverside County, but also with San Bernardino. So if anyone wants to get involved in that work with us, let us know. We would love to have allies in that work. And so I'll leave it there. But yeah, we're all stronger when all the nonprofits are stronger. And I agree with Paul that we need to work together, that there are opportunities for working more together. Thanks.
Thank you. And from our friends in Fresno, Carly, any concluding remarks?
Sure. I just wanted to say that this pandemic, after a year of it, I can say that there are some things that we've adjusted to that will continue once things get going again. We know that we're not going to go back to normal. It's going to be a new normal. We'll probably continue working remotely. I intend on keeping that part-time staff and hopefully increasing to full-time. We still will continue to engage our teams online. I think that has actually worked out better for us in the long run. We are also exploring hybrid activities. Having seen that our virtual events reach a larger audience than our in-person events, we'll probably continue those. We've just had to step up in a different way, and my objective this past year for us was not to go dormant, just like our languages, and it takes work to make that happen. And we were interested in encouraging our communities that language and culture can adapt. And in the end, I think it has made us stronger, and it's given us some more time for reflection and planning and adjustment. And I know that our communities have suffered. I know that many of them have lost elders, and many of them have lost elder speakers of their languages. And I hope that our organization can continue to be a support for them, no matter what status their language is in. I also wanted to just lastly note that the UN declared 2022 as the start of the International Year of Indigenous Languages. So this is a global movement for reclamation of indigenous languages that are endangered. So I'm interested if there's anyone out there that is interested in partnering with us or working toward stepping up for that. Please reach out. So that's all. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Carly. Josh?
Yeah, I'm gonna put my email in the chat, but definitely would love to continue to work with all of you folks if we can. I think for me, as some folks have mentioned, you know, definitely not looking at going back to normal. Really just trying to continue to support our students and our staff, right? Checking in with them, you know, throughout the pandemic, you know, really just kind of making sure, you know, that self-appreciation, that self-health and wellness has been incorporated into the work and daily life, and really just, you know, continuing to support our staff too. You know, again, you know, we had, even before the pandemic, there was we call passion fatigue, where we're just always just doing everything, always just going 100, and it's like all right, we got to also make sure that we take care of ourselves. And one of the, traditional teachings that I know I've been taught was you can't take care of anybody else until you can take care of yourself. So before you can go out there and help other folks, make sure you take care of yourself, and then, be able to take the time to help other folks. And so really, taking into account your self-reflection, self-health and wellness, and really just, again, trying to move forward that way. And again, as mentioned, as we move forward together, right? As we move forward together, not just one individual or one team or one organization. It's like we're as a community, as a nation, right? Trying to figure out how do we move forward together. And so there's a lot of moving pieces, and really just it kind of starts with yourself. It starts with your family, and then it goes out, So
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. And Faun, I don't know, we have about a minute or two. I don't know if you wanted to share any concluding thoughts.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I want to say thank you to all the panelists today. Thank you for sharing like some of your challenges and successes, and how you're moving forward into this year, next year, and beyond. But for the tribe, the tribe overall, we're here to stay, and the tribe is a very giving tribe. I feel very fortunate that I'm able to work with like our partners with UCR, and our other nonprofit groups that are, making things happen and making that impact in the community. But one thing I want to say is from 2020, the tribe recently launched their San Manuel team member philanthropy program. This program was implemented to provide additional support for our local nonprofit groups. So included in that program, it's part matching gifts, and then also our volunteer program. So the matching gifts, the tribe is able to match any gift that our tribal members or team members donate to local establishments, local nonprofits. And then also the volunteer program, it allows our team members to have more boots on the ground so that we can, provide additional services in the community. So I think the tribe is just thinking of everything overall, but very fortunate again, to be here today and to share this information with you. Alberto, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Faun. And I do want to say thank you to all of our panel speakers for being here today. I hope today's discussion was engageful and meaningful for a lot of good discussion. And I'm sure we can talk about all day of all the different challenges that the community is facing. But, from here at San Manuel, we just want to say thank you for being so determined to continue to help the community. For us here at San Manuel, we see our nonprofit partners as the heart of the community. And we want to be there right with you. So please continue to do all the great work. Thank you for joining us this morning. To our speakers, to our audience, and let us know how we can help. We're always one phone call, one email away. So thanks again, and thank you all for joining us on this morning. Take care, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.